What's up guys, CJ here, and welcome back to another all-new episode of Hybrid News Now. We're actually going to start our day off in the pages of Marvel Comics as something massive happened in Civil War II issue number 3. Then we've got our first look at the Flash's new costume from next season, and finally a new X-Men show gets a pilot order from Fox. But first, let's talk Civil War II, and man, this week's issue was a doozy. Major spoilers are ahead if you are reading this event right now and haven't got a chance to check out this issue, so click away now if you don't want to know. So, as you already might know, the event centers around this young Inhuman Ulysses, whose power is that he can see the future. The debate in the event between Captain Marvel and Iron Man is whether to use this young Inhuman's powers to prevent potential futures from happening or not. Well, it just so happens in this case, one of the potential futures that Ulysses saw was a cataclysmic rampage by the Hulk, so the two sides came together and met at Bruce Banner's secret hideout in the middle of nowhere to try and prevent an incident from happening, and that's where things went wrong. As Bruce was getting a little heated, trying to explain and defend his experiments on himself to Maria Hill, Captain Marvel, and Iron Man, and the rest of the assembled heroes, an arrow flew out of nowhere, striking and killing the former Avenger. That's right, Bruce Banner is dead, and the killer is none other than Clint Barton, Hawkeye himself. In courtroom scenes spread throughout the issue, Barton actually makes a pretty compelling case that Bruce had actually asked Clint to kill him if he ever went Hulk again, and even went so far as to give the Archer a special arrow that would do the trick, just in case it ever came to pass. From Barton's point of view, Banner was about to Hulk out in the high-pressure situation, and his argument is that he prevented the cataclysm from happening, which Captain Marvel agrees with. Tony, of course, does not, and now views his former teammate as a murderer. Some pretty heavy stuff there for sure. Honestly, I thought this was a pretty well done issue, even if there were a few continuity errors, but the ramifications for this are going to be huge. Of course, the biggest fallout is that Bruce Banner, the original Hulk, is dead, at least for the time being. I mean, we all know how death usually works, or more accurately, usually doesn't work in comics. But regardless, his protege and successor, Amadeus Cho, the totally awesome Hulk, probably not too pleased. So, comment question of the day, let me know down below, whose side do you take on this one, and do you ever see this potentially happening in the MCU? In our next story today, another one to add to the slew of Flash news coming out this week, we finally have a look at what the hero is going to be wearing in Season 3. And here it is. So it's not really a huge change, as opposed to the more recent costumes on the show, which have tended for the all-leather look. There's still a pretty good mix of mesh in there. The biggest change is that it's a much brighter red than it had been in seasons past, and I think it's fair to say now that he's finally the Scarlet Speedster. The first look at the costume comes to us by way of the cover of a special Comic-Con magazine made by the folks that make the TV Guide, and it won't only be available at Comic-Con, don't worry, it'll also hit newsstands and be available digitally on July 19th. The magazine promises to give you a look at the next seasons for not only The Flash, but also Supergirl and a whole mess of other shows, so you can bet I'll be picking up my copy ASAP. And in our last story of the day, Marvel Television slate might just be growing by one more, as another pilot has been ordered by Fox, as first reported by Variety. The series, which is being co-produced by Marvel and Fox's TV divisions, focuses on two ordinary parents that discover their children are mutants and therefore have abilities, forcing them to go on the run from the government. Eventually, they link up with an underground mutant group and, I quote, must fight to survive. You know, it actually sounds pretty interesting. It doesn't really borrow from any story or book in particular, but it just kind of borrows from the mutant experience from the history of Marvel's comics as a whole. The biggest question for me now is how it works in what I assume would be an hour-long format. But the potential downside to this news, depending on how you felt about the project, is that it comes with the fact that Fox has decided to cancel its Hellfire Club show, which began production last year. So, as always, let me know in the comment section down below if this is something that you'd be interested in, but that brings us to the end of another H&N. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that like if you like what you saw, subscribe for more great content every single day, and consider supporting us on Patreon for access to all sorts of exclusive shows. Signing off, this is CJ, and I'll see you tomorrow.